Good morning and welcome to Everyday Money Matters. When you hear that tone, you know it's time for us to talk about money. And I love to talk about money, isn't it? And seeing all the greens and reds and whatever it is, the color you want to see. Anyway, welcome to the show. My name is Adu, and this is Everyday Money Matters brought to you in partnership with our friends at Nairametrics. Nairametrics is Nigeria's leading destination for business, financial, and economic news. And of course, information. Our content includes breaking news, analysis, coverage of the capital and money markets, financial literacy, and most importantly, personal finance. So, hey, you want any of these, just go to nairametrics.com. And of course, I am not alone today. I'm joined by the money team, and it's my singular honor to introduce you to them. And of course, as always, I start from the finance man himself, Olumide Adesina. How are you doing, Olumide? Good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, Nadu. Yeah, thanks for having me on the program this morning.
Good to have you here. Good to have you here. I'm sure later on, maybe we should have Ugodre or Loretta join us as we progress. Well, there are ways you can join the conversation, and you can let us know your questions. Just go to our WhatsApp number 0809-234-5913. That's 0809-234-5913. And let's get talking there. Sending your messages and would love to hear from you. Okay, 0809-234-5913. And more so, if you want to join the conversation, you can also join us later on by using the social media platforms, but I would let you have those in a moment. Well, once again, Olumide, good morning and welcome to the show. I hope it's not raining on your end of town.
It's a bit cloudy, yeah, but it looks like it wants to rain. Yeah, but it's cloudy around the Keja, yeah.
All right, awesome. All right, let's get into the questions. Quite a number of them have already come in, so I'll just shoot them straight away. And I'll start from this one. Asking says, good morning, Ugodre. How viable is the bond market since the revisions made by the current government? He says, please, Ugo or Olumide should kindly answer the question.
Basically, what's really happening in the bond market is that we're seeing a lot of demand based on the fact that yields are rising. If you look at the treasury bills, for example, week to week, it has risen from 1.6 to 2.7. I'm talking about the yield curve, and that's because investors are going to consistent investments, and that has really played in the debt market. And also, if you look at longer tenors, like if you look at the FGN that has bonds that expires 2048, yields are going as high as 11%, and that's kind of very, very high. If you look at that, I mean the fact that inflation is moving at 17.33%. So yes, for retail investors, that doesn't look like a good investment. Understand the fact that when you consider that with the inflation rate I just spoke about, that gives you minus 6%, about minus 6 or 5. Yeah. But for institutional investors really key into that market because they're talking about consistent pay and consistent income, and the fact that they move large sums of money. So, for example, an institutional investor that is controlling 500 billion, that kind of market will be attractive, knowing the fact that it can pull in and out at different times. So, yes, we are seeing rapid gains in the debt instrument market, but like the fact about investment is that these things move in cycle. Doesn't mean that they might play. But for the past 6 weeks, looking at the debt market, yes, the yields have been rising, and that means that the nominal price for the bonds have come down because yields and the nominal bond prices they move inversely. So investors are trying to cash in on that, and the stock market is not doing as well as it should. The year to date is hovering below 4%, and that has made some investors, especially institutional investors, a bit shaky. So they rather go for something consistent. So that's really what's happening in the bond market.
Interesting. Thank you very much for that, Olumide. More questions still coming in. This one talking about the produce that they had. She said, or he said, I produce groundnut oil in Q4 of 2020, but was able to sell the groundnut oil. Couldn't get to export it as well. It says, please, can you link me with any body or agency that can assist with the export of the groundnut oil that I already produced?
Okay, that's a bit quite unfortunate for the groundnut producer because we have an agency that was started by the federal government, I think 1976, and that is the Nigerian Promotion Export Council. They are mandated to facilitate, support this kind of people in exporting especially non-oil export. So groundnuts fall in that category. It's so simple. All he just needs to do is go to their site. Their addresses are there. I think the cost of registration for that kind of thing is 13,500. So you get the processes are straightforward. All he needs to do is make sure that his business is registered, he has the CAC documents, and it's good to go. You understand? And in fact, the exciting thing about it is that once you are registered, once you have that license and stuff like that, you can also get CBN support because CBN has mandated this kind of agri buyers, to get needed support from banks. So it's even pushing the stress he will go through. So I think what he needs to start to do first is going to the Nigerian Promotion Export Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Olumide. Really appreciate you sharing that. Before we take more questions, just want to reiterate that you can join this conversation by sending your messages to us on WhatsApp, okay, 0809-234-5913. Now, also, just in case you thought you didn't catch the beginning of the show, you can always head over to YouTube to watch it again. So just go to youtube.com/Nairametrics, or just look for Nairametrics on YouTube, and you can watch this video over and over again. And of course, hear the expert advice that is coming to you live on the show. Olumide, there's another question here. It says, what's happening to GT Bank? Why have they not announced dividends? They usually do around the same time as another bank, Zenith. It says, hope there's no problem going on there.
Yeah, I don't think there's any problem, but I think it's the bank's bureaucracy to announce wherever time they want to announce. Though there's usually a time period. There's usually a period that they are usually make such announcements, and I think such bias has led to the share price falling. Just yesterday, the stock lost about 5%, and that's because a lot of investors are already anxious. But the bank has good fundamentals, is showing strong upside. Recently, the bank is already moving to fintech. They're already recruiting a lot of people on LinkedIn. So yes, they're expanding, diversifying. I think investors just need to be a bit patient. Yes, traditionally they usually at almost period announce their dividend with Senate, but I don't think that should make investors nervy.
Okay, so still talking about questions that are around the banking sector. This is one from one of our listeners live from the studio here. It says, how can the CBN conclude that we, the customers, should pay the debt incurred when the banks declared hundreds of billions in profits just weeks ago, yet they won't give proper employment to people? Says, we might as well return to analog banking if I will be charged 7 naira for recharging 100 naira. I think that's on the new USSD code. Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I think we need to be fair. I think what the Apex Bank did was that, you see, these things run on infrastructure. It runs on infrastructure. The USDD code runs on servers, on banking infrastructure. And I'm sure after the meeting, they looked at the rate that would suit both the customers and the bank. And don't forget that the CBN is neutral here. It's not the CBN that is getting the profit yet. The CBN is just trying to put in a price control on these charges. And I think for me, it's a fair rate if you consider the fact that the inflational value of the naira now, I don't think that's on the high side. So yes, I understand why a lot of customers are already banking on bank charges. But the CBN in this mandate has done a lot in trying to cushion such transaction costs. If you look at the recent 18 months, they've come out with so many reforms on bank charges, and I think all customers just need to do is to be a bit patient. Yeah, the CBN, I don't think the CBN guys are trying to make things more difficult. In fact, they're trying to bring in more transparency and ease to business. So I think customers should just bear with them for a while. Yeah, things will be better.
I'm not sure people want to hear that word beer at the moment. But anyway, let's move on. There's another question here for you, Olumide. Do you think, this question is asking now, do you think the US stock market is in a bubble?
That's a very tricky question because if you look at the present narrative, yeah, some market experts are already looking at that side because you see what is really happening is that the US 10-year Treasury yield is already moving at about 1.6%, and usually when you get to that level, that's about it's moving at 13-month high, and that rate means that investors are not having so much confidence in the stock market. That is why that rate is that high. But albeit it may be, you see, the US stock market has had one of the longest bullish cycle. In fact, a lot of experts are wondering if there is going to be a bearish cycle in the next couple of years because at the recently the US government just passed 1.9 trillion dollars, and that's filtering already into the market. Imagine almost every American having $1,400. So that gives them a lot of buying power to buy this asset. So yes, the market looks like it's going undergoing some corrections, especially if you look at the tech stocks, stocks like Apple, Google, Facebook, and Tesla has recorded recent sell-offs from their record highs. But other stocks like the airline business, the oil stocks are doing impressive well. So yes, it's too early, but signs are showing that exhaustion. And with the present meeting ongoing, I'm talking of the US Federal Reserve, that happens to be their central bank. Today's meeting will give us a direction of what the market will look like because now that inflation is looking to be on the high side, if rates go high, then we might start having crumbs in the stock market, because investors will now start moving to safe haven currencies like the dollar and the treasury bills.
Okay, well, safe haven currencies better come in quick because the things look like we might be needing them soon. Anyway, you're listening to Everyday Money Matters, brought to you in partnership with Nairametrics. And perhaps you're wondering, like you just jumped in the middle of the dial and you're wondering, hey, how can I get to listen to this again? Just go over to YouTube, okay? I said that earlier, perhaps you haven't heard. youtube.com/Nairametrics. You'd find it there. Just check on the videos and you'll be able to see them. And other, insightful webinars that come from Nairametrics as well, you'd see them there. But there's one in particular that, Nairametrics offering you, and that's the Stock Select newsletter. And that's where Ugodre, who, sometimes is convener of this particular show, helps to, get you on the right path to stock picking, because he shows you his stock picks and helps you become a smart investor and discover market beating stocks. You learn how to invest with confidence. You get insight into factors that really drive capital appreciation, so you're not guessing when you go into the stock market. So to subscribe, just go to ssn.nairametrics.com. That's ssn.nairametrics.com. At least you get 2 stock recommendations monthly. When you subscribe, you get monthly buy, sell, or hold recommendations. So perhaps you have stock, when to sell, when to hold. And it's pretty much, a good compass, particularly if you're not familiar with the stock market. You'll also get exclusive market intelligence on stock and the market in general, as well as, succinctly written analysis of the company results and corporate actions that companies are taking. So like the issue of the GT and Zenith Bank that Olumide helped us to dissect earlier ago. So it's particularly very, very useful tool for those of you who are in the stock market. So hey, it's ssn.nairametrics.com in case you're listening. Okay, so Olumide, let's get back into the questions, shall we? Here's another one coming in, and I'd just like you to answer this, what your opinion is. Now, it says, what are we going to call unemployment of 33% and inflation rate of 17%? Now, the National Bureau of Statistics just released that a couple of days ago. And like you were mentioning earlier about inflation rates now 17%, what exactly is the picture here? I'm guessing that's what this person's asking.
Yeah, the macro doesn't look so good. The fact when you consider the fact that inflation is hovering at 17.33%, like you said, rightly said, and you look at unemployment, looking at the 3%, and even if you go deeper, youth unemployment is hovering at about 42.3%, and that tells you that we're in serious trouble. And if you look at the way we are producing, in 2015, Nigeria will be the third most populous nation in the world, and that is talking about we are moving at 300 million. So we're having more babies than jobs, and that shows that the present narrative is not working. Yes, people might say this is doomed, this is that, but I think at Nairametrics, what we really look at is like what good can come out of this, and it's like what we've been saying over the years is like this is the time that we need to be self-creative. This is not the time for us to start looking for jobs all around. Yes, we're producing graduates at record levels, but I think now graduates need to start considering how to be entrepreneurial in design. And those that are even the middle class workers to have to start looking for side hustles. Because if you look at inflation rate, for example, it means that in the last 18 months, your purchasing value has dropped over 20%. So how would you survive when you have basic side?
Do you want to break that down a little bit? Sorry. When you say purchasing power has dropped by 20%.
It means that, okay, it means that, for example, if you were earning 100,000 naira, and what you could buy with 100,000 18 months ago now, virtually it has dropped to 80,000 naira now. So that value is about 80,000 naira now. And your salary is basic. It's very difficult for employers to increase your wages. The fact that we are coming out from COVID-19, a lot of companies are closing down, and we still have a lot of coppers printing out from the Nigerian labor force, and that's adding more pressure on the unemployment rate. So I think the way forward here is just that we need to be entrepreneurial. And I think if you look at what is coming out, it shows that there are positive signs. Look at Total Wave's recent valuation of $1 billion. This was started by young guys. Paystack recently was acquired for about $200 million. This was started by young guys. And you can see, even look at the fintech space, a lot of jobs are being created. And you see, the narrative also is that if we don't address these things, it might get worse, because we just recently signed the African Treaty that opens the border for other jobs by other African citizens. So a Ghana competing with our limited jobs will also add more pressure. So it's time for Nigerians to be more competitive. Stop blaming government. Yes, we know that the fiscal officers have issues at hand, but I think it's now for us to go to the drawing board. How do you make yourself competitive? Draw more skills. If you have a job, if you're in the middle class era, increase your earnings. If you're in the high class era, diversify your income. If you're in the low income era, try and be consistent. So these are things that everybody needs on board to drive this on board. Government alone can't do this, you understand? And for example, a lot of people say, yes, we don't have money to do this, we don't have. Yes, just come to the Nairametrics website for 3 months and reading on financials or other financial websites. We empower you financially. There are some things that's better done than said, So I think it's now time for us to stop whining and complaining. Yes, we know things are getting painful, but this is time for us to reform. Great nations reform during crisis, and that is shown in Ireland and Japan. So I think in Nigeria, should be the turning point for us to wake up and start the evolution of working harder, and smart. Yeah, thank you.
Well said, Olumide. I think Ugodre is on the webinar now. Let me see if I can poke him into joining us. Ugodre, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. I do. I was enjoying the conversation. I didn't know that you spotted me.
You can't sneak in and I will not see you. You smell of money too much. That's why we call you.
Olumide is doing a fantastic job. So
yeah, awesome. Do you want to just also shed some light on this unemployment issue here? Because someone was asking again of employee data, productivity data, and stuff like that currently in Nigeria.
Not sure what it means by employee productivity data, but I think that what that data tells us basically is it confirms again how bad 2020 was for Nigeria. I don't think a lot of people really understand the impact of the lockdowns and COVID-19 and what it had on business. So apart from the fact that we have 33% unemployment, there was actually 10 million people that basically dropped out of the workforce.
Wow.
Yeah, in Q4 versus Q2 of 2020. So, just as Olumide said, it's a huge, there's a lesson in here and there's a message in here. And the message is that, it's not enough for you to just have your BSc or your MBA or your master's degree, right? For you to be able to, to get jobs, you've got to be able to acquire, amazing skills. You got to have some kind of skills. And because just a few days ago, somebody put up a tweet and he was saying, look, there's an employment everywhere. Yeah, I can't hire people. I can't get the right staff or the right hire. And if you sit down and ask employers, they tell you that it's increasingly difficult to hire the right people for the right positions. Yet, there are a lot of people out there looking for jobs. So the fact of the matter is that, in as much as the economy is really poor and things are really bad, but there are jobs out there. People are creating job opportunities. So I think for those who are unemployed, people got to spend a lot of time in acquiring skills. So gone are the days where you say, "Oh, I'm an engineer," or "I'm an accountant." It's more than that. You gotta have some kind of skills. Do you have broadcasting skills like I do? Do you have graphic skills? Do you have coding skills? Do you have financial analysis skills? Are you a medical doctor? Not just a doctor. Are you a surgeon? You just gotta have skills, and that's what the people are looking for, because we are in a creative environment now. So we're not in an environment where things are basically just one track. I think people want multi-dimensional capabilities, and that's really what it is.
Well, thank you very much, Ugodre. Always a pleasure hearing from you. Olumide, there's another question here. This person is also asking about this inflation issue, but the question now is, what financial investments are available that will give me returns above inflation in Nigeria? In other words, it's 17%, but I want to do something that will give me more than that.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's very interesting. We recently just did an article about that, and if the listener or reader follows Nairametric, would have gotten it. But just to retract all that was said, there are some assets that always give you, often give you yields that are higher than that inflationary figure, and that's real estate. Real estate properties over the years have been consistently on the appreciation side. Looking at Lagos, for example, the urban migration population is increasing. So lands, houses on the other side. Gold is another thing that gives such high yields. You can, for a Nigerian investor that is not opportune to go to the spot market like some of us do, you can go through the ETFs options. There are gold traded ETFs. You see that Nigerian stock market. Then there are pretty other ones, commodities and cryptos. So basically, it's still the same. It's just that it depends on your portfolio size, your appetite for risk. But these are prevailing things that often give higher inflation, so higher returns than inflation. Yeah, but it's not always a guarantee. It's not always a guarantee. Yeah.
Does
So,
agriculture feed into this matrix as well? Agri-tech and stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah. Agriculture is a very good one. Yeah, yeah, very good. Yeah, very. Then crowdfunding too is another. Basically, there are so many, but I think what the listener needs to understand is that when you're tailoring these things, sometimes it becomes very difficult if the investor, if the financial advisor or the analyst is not aware of your portfolio size, your age, and your appetite for risk and your tenor. For example, you can't invest in gold, even though gold usually has an higher yield than inflation. If you are looking at short term, because gold's percentile gain is usually small, but consistent over the time, so often beats inflation, especially in emerging markets. So you just have to tailor all these things into consideration. And if you really are not satisfied, yeah, there are articles that on the site that will really give you deeper details. I'm just giving you just bullets on how those assets move during inflation. Yeah.
Right. I think Ugodre, do you want to chime in on that?
I was just gonna say that I mean there's an instructive article on this on Nairametrics. We basically broke down and gave you guys a a few business ideas that you can invest in, especially in inflation. So I think you want to go there. I don't know if maybe the team can perhaps put this. Sorry about that. I don't know if the team can perhaps put this on the Zoom link, and then maybe push it out on our social media handles so that all our readers can see it. But it's just an instructive article. There are things like gold, there are things like US stocks, real estate. They're just amazing content out there that our analysts gave us as investment ideas that people can read or can invest in. So just read it up.
Thank you, Ugodre. So just in case you're listening on radio and perhaps you're not on the webinar on Zoom, you just go to nairametrics.com, okay? Nairametrics.com, as pronounced, it's spelled as pronounced, nairaandmetrics.com, and you can get a hang of this particular, shall I say, article. And hopefully, maybe when I do get the link, I'll also probably try to tweet it on Lagos Talks Twitter platform as well, so that those of us on radio can also benefit from that. And in the same breath, do not forget, you can also subscribe to the Nairametrics Stock Select newsletter. That's, shall I say, a guide that gives you the opportunity to become a smart investor, help you discover the market beating stocks, learn to invest with confidence, and get insight into factors that would drive your capital appreciation, and also deal with this kind of things like inflation. So, hey, you want to also subscribe to that whilst you're looking out at Nairametrics website. And the website for the subscription is simply ssn.nairametrics.com. So instead of www.nairametrics.com, you just type in ssn.nairametrics.com and you get access to this to subscribe. So 2 platforms that you can use to get the information that will really help you for this particular issue here. Okay, so later on, I have the link now. I'm going to put it on the station's Twitter handle, where you can go ahead and read up, for those of you who asked the question, and learn on what will give you returns above inflation. All right, last but not least, as we begin to draw the curtain on the show today, good day. This is the last question here. It says, I would like you to advise me on legitimate investment options with good returns with a capital of 2.5 million naira.
That's a very direct question. Yeah, that looks a bit interesting. But when you turn that into dollar terms, that's moving about $4,300, right? Yeah. So it limits your options. Basically, the ideal investment in that area should be stocks, and sometimes you could put some of them into money markets, depending indirectly, ETFs. There are good investment banks that are regulated. You can go through that. We also have dollar-based investments too in the mutual sector. Banks like there are some banks, but I don't want to announce them. But you can go through that channel. So at least you have a 30 to 40% exposure in that area. Then you can put your money in the Nigerian stock market, though it's already having price correction. But there's still some stocks that are pretty undervalued, especially blue chip stocks that are showing signs of good growth. And if you look at recently, the most profitable bank recently gave a massive dividend, and the stock has been pulling down based on the price correction going across market spectrum. So if you don't have a certified stockbroker, subscribe to Nairametrics, subscribe to Nairametrics newsletter. You understand, you get insights on these things. You see, one of the things you need to understand, Adu and listeners, is that investment returns don't just happen overnight. You also have to do your homework. Even though you have a financial advisor research, you have to read, you have to understand these things, because like we are another price correction. That's what happened last year. And the market came out with 50% year return. So who says the Nigerian stock market won't give you another impressive return? So you just have to position yourself, read up, you understand, work harder, and you get desired results. Thank you.
Thank you, Olumide. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, and thank you for everyone for listening. It was a great pleasure having you here. I do hope to see you again next week on another episode of the show. And for the listeners, I already tweeted the link to that article so you can read up and get the best when it comes to knowing what to do to beat inflation. Until we see you again next week, Olumide, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, Ugo, for joining us.
All right. Bye-bye. All right.
Now it's time for